Meg Griffin has been tortured in every possible way. By her family, her friends, and even the town itself. But what happens when the abuse hits a new low, and the guy everyone calls Pervy turns into the biggest nightmare of all? Today, we're counting every moment Meg Griffin got absolutely victimised in Family Guy. Starting things off with that one time she was declared legally dead, and nobody even noticed she was missing. It all starts with a perfectly normal school day. Except, not really, because everyone at James Woods High has decided to collectively skip class in what I assume is some sort of beautifully chaotic student-wide rebellion. Everyone except Meg, of course, because no one, not even her own brother, thought it was worth telling her. Like, she literally rides to school with Chris, and even he said, nah, she can figure it out. So, Meg trudges through a ghost town of a school day, only to come home and find nothing. No Chris, no Stewie, no Peter, no Lois. Just an empty house and the creeping realisation that she might actually be in the Twilight Zone. Turns out the family ditched her to hit the pier for a fun day out. Classic Griffin move. But here's where it gets insultingly bizarre. They genuinely believe Meg is already there. Their proof? A literal barrel with a beanie and a wig that they mistake for their own daughter. Peter, in peak dad fail mode, confronts the real Meg and goes,
Give me that. Okay, Meg, if this is you, what's your birthday?
March 23rd.
I have no idea if that's correct.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Then, Joe Swanson shows up looking all serious and says,
It pains me above the waist to tell you that Meg is dead.
Meg, the real one, is standing right there, and everyone is still like, yikes, rip, because apparently the barrel was mistaken for a corpse. Joe even hands over Meg's driver's license like it's some kind of grim souvenir. No one questions it, not even for a second. What really happened? Bruce at the bowling alley mixed up Meg's ID after huffing shoe spray. Yeah, shoe spray, and gave her ID to some random girl. Meanwhile, Meg is alive and well, just trying to get her shoes back while everyone plans her funeral. Speaking of funerals, only the staff at Quiznos seem to give a single solitary crap about Meg's demise. Like, the sandwich guys were more broken up than her own family. Oh, and the photo at her funeral? Not of Meg, not even a childhood picture. Nope, it's the barrel. The literal barrel they thought was her. Even Brian and Stewie couldn't be bothered to show up in person. They sent holograms, so they could go to the arcade instead. Meanwhile, Chris is living it up. Apparently, having a dead sister is the best thing that ever happened to his social life. Suddenly, every hot girl in school is throwing themselves at him. The guy's basically grieving his way into a glow-up. And Meg is devastated, like actually hurt. She's watching her own family not only forget her, but actively enjoy her absence. Fed up, Meg bounces. She packs her stuff and moves to another city, which honestly is the healthiest decision anyone in the show has ever made. And shocker, it works. She's got new friends, a rooftop view, a glass of wine, and for once in her life, a little peace, a little respect. And nobody's trying to feed her to a bear or frame her for arson. Meanwhile, Chris is doubling down on the dead sister shtick. T-shirts, sympathy hookups, the whole thing. This dude's made grief his brand, but the clout trip doesn't last. Meg, inexplicably, decides to call Chris and tell him the truth, that she's alive, because she misses the Griffins, which might be the saddest part of all.
I missed Mom. I missed you. I missed the whole family.
Girl, they literally thought a barrel was you. A barrel. But instead of being happy she's alive, Chris decides he's not about to give up his new popularity. So what does he do? He traps her in a van and abandons her in a warehouse. Because in Family Guy, if there's a chance to make Meg's life worse, someone will take it. So yeah, Meg being declared legally dead by her own family was rough. But even that might be one of the more respectable things she's ever been roped into. Let's talk about the time Meg's own dad basically tried to trade her to pay off a drugstore tab. Right from the jump, the episode comes out swinging with Stewie casually suggesting Meg ends her life. Just as Meg's self-esteem is catching fire, Neil Goldman shows up to ask her out again. And just like every other time, Meg hits him with the classic rejection. Door slam to the face. You'd think that would be the end of it. Spoiler, it's not. We cut to Peter, who's on a mission to stock up on romantic evening essentials. Except, he hits a little snag. He forgot his wallet. But Mort, being way too trusting, lets him open up a tab. Like it's the Wild West and Peter's some kind of mustached whiskey outlaw. Peter immediately takes this as a green light to raid the entire store like it's Black Friday and he's the only one with legs. Among the bizarre items he picks up are bottles of Ipecac. You know, the vomit medicine that turns your digestive system into a fire hose.
Peter, I need you to hold my ears.
But actions have consequences. Well, usually. And Peter's consequences come in the form of a $34,000 bill from a drugstore. How's that even possible? Was he buying liquid gold? So Peter comes up with a solution so absurd it has to be illegal.
All right, listen, I got another idea. What if I sold you my daughter?
Yep, you heard that right. Now, Mort naturally is confused, but kinda into it. And here's where it gets extra pathetic. Neil, the guy Meg rejected relentlessly, now has a new girlfriend, Cecilia, who is, frankly, a solid 10, which means even Neil is out of Meg's league now. Let that sink in. Meg, instead of being thrilled she dodged the Neil bullet, actually spirals into jealousy. Yes, she's jealous that Neil moved on, so she tries asking out someone else. But the dude is so repulsed by the idea that he literally shoots himself in the stomach just to escape the conversation. Like, what level of social rejection are we on now? With her self-worth in absolute shambles, Meg ends up settling for a kid named Jake, who is an upside-down face. Not a metaphor, his actual face is upside down. This is what rock bottom looks like in Family Guy. And does this get a rise out of Neil? Nope. He and Cecilia are thrilled for her, while Meg quietly dies inside. Finally, in a moment that's both tragic and wildly uncomfortable, Meg begs Neil to take her back. She's gone from avoiding him like the plague to literally offering herself to him like a Craigslist giveaway item. And to seal the deal, she signs a contract making Neil her legal owner, then tops it off with a kiss so sad it will make Wall-E look like a horror movie. Next, we have the time Lois Griffin made the absolute unhinged decision to hit on Meg's boyfriend. Okay, I know what you guys are wondering. Meg has a what?
No, really, I have a boyfriend. His name is Anthony.
Yeah, that sounds real sus to me. I mean, this is Meg, the same girl who once dated a guy in a coma. So when she claims she has a living, breathing boyfriend who likes her voluntarily, everyone's already preparing the intervention. But then we find out that Anthony actually exists, and not only that, he's normal. And Peter and Lois are thrilled. For the first time ever, Meg isn't dating someone who legally shouldn't be within 500 feet of a playground. It's like the stars aligned. The writers showed mercy, and Meg was finally allowed to win something, until Anthony opens his mouth. And here's where everything starts to spiral.
Has anybody ever told you you're pretty enough to be a movie star, Mrs. Griffin?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know about that.
Because while that was clearly meant to be a harmless compliment, the kind you drop to charm your girlfriend's mum without getting grounded, Lois takes it as a marriage proposal. The look on her face says it all. Lois is flattered, of course, but that innocent little line hits her brain like wine on an empty stomach. You can practically hear her internal monologue shifting from, I'm a responsible parent, to, should I buy a leopard print bra? It doesn't take long before she's diving headfirst into dangerous territory.
Oh, my God. That's kind of hot.
No, Lois. No, it's really not. This kid is like 17. He doesn't even have chest hair. He still thinks Chuck E. Cheese is an acceptable first date. But for some reason, a little flicker of attention sends Lois into a full-on thirst spiral. And no, she's not drunk. She's just sober Lois. Raw, unfiltered, and apparently lacking any understanding of boundaries. She starts fantasizing about the poor kid like she's trying to land a spin-off series called MILF and Minor. I mean, we all know where this is headed, right? Spoiler, it gets worse. Lois doesn't waste time. One night, she decides it's go time. She sets the mood, sends Meg out on an errand, probably sprays herself with expired perfume called Predator Mist. Then, she gives Anthony a little gift, a token of her affection.
Your husband's work and poker game schedule?
My menstrual cycle's on there, too, but I don't mind if you don't.
What? That's not flirting. That's a HR violation. That line alone deserves community service and a full therapy arc. Anthony just blinks like a deer caught in a hormonal headlight. And if you're hoping this is the moment Anthony sprints out the door and calls CPS, think again. Lois gets Meg out of the house, corners Anthony, and straight up confesses her feelings, like it's a Nicholas Sparks novel and not a crime scene in progress.
Wow, this is so cool. I've never had a MILF come on to me before.
Great, so he's into it. Amazing. He's got the brain of a soggy sponge and zero survival instincts. Instead of being grossed out, Anthony acts like he just unlocked a trophy on PlayStation. MILF magnet. Achievement unlocked. And that's it. That's the point where you think, Meg won't find out, right? Wrong.
Mom, I forgot my keys. Do you know where?
Bam. Busted. Mid-flirt. Caught in 4K. Meg walks in and sees her mother making a move on her literal boyfriend. The horror on her face is a mix of betrayal, confusion, and the sudden urge to burn her own eyes out with a curling iron. And let's just take a second here. Imagine walking in on your mom hitting on your teenage boyfriend. That's not just traumatizing, that's core memory ruining. That's, I'm never celebrating Mother's Day again, levels of psychological damage. You could probably guess how Meg feels about this. Devastated doesn't even cover it. Her mother has now joined the long list of people who've actively participated in making her life worse. Lois tries to walk it back, literally does the sad shuffle upstairs to talk to Meg, but we all know she's not going to own this in any meaningful way. But the nightmare doesn't stop there, because now she's got to tell Peter. And you think this is the moment where Peter unleashes hell, where he finally grows a spine and says, no, you don't get to emotionally destroy our daughter and make moves on high schoolers. But Lois turns it on Peter, manipulates the entire thing into a sob story about how she doesn't feel attractive anymore, and Peter apologizes. Meanwhile, Meg's upstairs questioning her entire existence, holding back tears, and realizing that even when she finally finds a boyfriend who likes her, her own mother will swoop in and ruin it. But hey, if you think Meg's love life is just a series of unfortunate events, buckle up, because the real romantic horror story involves a man whose idea of a date night probably includes a restraining order. Because if there's one thing the Family Guy writers have made disturbingly clear over the years, it's that Glenn Quagmire is absolutely obsessed with Meg Griffin. And I don't mean a casual crush or a weird moment here and there. I mean a full-blown, age-inappropriate creep fest of an obsession that tiptoes the line between comedy and full-on FBI watchlist behaviour. Let's just rip the band-aid off, shall we? Quagmire literally records Meg in the bathroom. And the wildest part? Meg's not even surprised. No screaming, no shock, just a deadpan, again, reaction. Like this is just another Tuesday in the Griffin household. That's how numb she is. That's how normalised her own exploitation has become. Because for the longest time, Meg being underage was the one thing standing between her and Quagmire's basement full of red flags. But eventually, even the last line of defence crumbles. At another point, Quagmire tries creeping on Meg and her friends during a sleepover. Like they're literally in pyjamas talking about school and lip gloss or whatever, and this man-child is hovering outside the door hoping for, what, a live reading of 50 Shades of Pinkberry? When they don't serve up the naughty talk he was fishing for, he just straight up bails. Glenn, buddy, they're teenagers, not members of the Spice Channel hotline. But let's rewind to the core of this horror story, Meg's birthday. Meg's parents try to surprise her with a party, and no one shows up. Not a single soul. Not even the weird kid who eats glue in the back of the class. They couldn't even bribe people to show up.
Chris, what the hell? I thought you were going to pay the kids from school to show up. I gave you $300.
Let that sink in. $300 and still no one came. Eventually, everyone just goes to bed. They don't even bother cutting a cake. They literally just leave Meg alone in the living room like a forgotten Amazon package. Like, happy birthday? Now enjoy your existential dread. But just when Meg thinks it's all over, guess who shows up? You already know. It's the Grim Reaper of boundaries himself, Quagmire.
So, where is the birthday girl?
At first, it actually seems kind of sweet. He brings her a scented candle, which, on paper, is a thoughtful gift. Very Target aisle 6. Very Pinterest. And for a brief moment, you're like, okay, maybe he's just being a decent guy. Yeah, no.
Well, it's your 18th birthday, Meg. That's a very important milestone in a young woman's life.
Oh, great, he's doing the voice. That I waited until it was legal voice. That I already filled out the dating app age filter voice. You can practically hear the sirens in the distance. And then he puts his hand on her thigh, just casually, like they've been dating for months and not, he's her dad's creepy best friend. And Meg, she looks bored, not offended, not even uncomfortable, just tired. Like this isn't the first time someone's crossed the line. Like she expected it, and that's somehow even worse.
Look at Quagmire hitting on that skank.
Way to defend your daughter, Peter. The girl is literally being poured at by your pervy neighbour, and your biggest takeaway is slut-shaming your own kid. Quagmire tries to play it cool by telling her a fun little story from his pilot days, like that somehow smooths over the molestation vibes. Peter finally clocks that something's up. Peter and Brian jump in and throw Quagmire out before things escalate. But Quagmire isn't done. He texts Meg that same night, like some weird predator from a dating app that somehow allows parolees. And what's he texting about? Farmville? Yes, he's trying to bond with Meg over Farmville, because nothing says grooming like, hey, wanna water my virtual turnips? He keeps the convo going with the most pathetic small talk imaginable, and somehow it works. Meg starts warming up to him. You can almost see the writers going, yes, let the corruption flow. Then he straight up asks her to hang out, and to the horror of every viewer with a moral compass, Meg says yes. She agrees to go out with Quagmire, the man whose idea of romance involves handcuffs and blackout curtains. The next night, Quagmire shows up with flowers, like actual, I'm trying to court you flowers. Not, here's something I grabbed at CVS. And Meg? She's into it. This girl is starved for affection to such an unhealthy degree, she's out here treating Quagmire like he's a prize. And Lois encourages the whole thing.
Peter, nothing's gonna happen. Don't you see? She's only doing this to get a rise out of us.
What? Lois, your daughter is going out with a man who once got arrested for smuggling blow-up dolls across state lines. This isn't rebellion, it's a cry for help. Peter is clearly not okay with it, but he's also powerless. He just watches her leave like someone waiting for the inevitable train wreck. At dinner, Quagmire's acting like a teenage boy with a crush, giggling and blushing like this isn't a full-blown scandal. And then, because of course he does, he asks Meg to come home with him, and she agrees. Thankfully, she doesn't go inside. Instead, she kisses him on the lips and heads home. Still creepy, still inappropriate, still a problem. But at least no clothes were removed. Yet. But now it's a thing. She's spooning with Quagmire on the couch. The girl who once got ignored by a Quiznos cashier is now Netflix and chilling with the neighborhood predator. Are they dating? Is this a hostage situation? Who knows anymore? Peter finally loses it. He wedges himself between them on the couch like a human chastity belt. But that doesn't stop them. Quagmire starts tutoring Meg, helping her study, which is somehow creepier than everything before. He's acknowledging she's still in high school while simultaneously trying to date her. Eventually, Quagmire invites her to his so-called sex cabin, aka the Stuff It In. Peter and Lois realise this has gone way too far and race after them. But by the time they get there, Quagmire and Meg are already in full romance novel mode. Their shadows are undressing each other, which is possibly the grossest artistic choice in this entire series.
What is going on over here? We taking our shirts off now? Okay, follow the leader.
Quagmire takes his shirt off, and at this point, everyone watching needs a hazmat suit for their brain. He's inches away from sleeping with her, and yeah, sure, she's technically 18 now, but that doesn't make this okay. It makes it legal, not moral. Peter and Lois finally bust in. Meg insists she's an adult who can do what she wants, but Peter's not having it.
You may be an adult, but you're still my daughter. And it's my job to protect you from errant wieners. So I don't care how old you are, you're gonna do what I say and get in a damn car!
Iconic line, deeply disturbing context. Meg finally caves. Lois steps up with the threat of all threats. Come near her again and I'll cut off your bits and feed them to Brian. But Meg Griffin doesn't just catch feelings or harassment or existential despair. She also catches actual diseases. Remember that one time Meg got the mumps because her family is so wildly incompetent, they basically set her up for it like a biological prank gone wrong. Let's roll the tape. Now for those lucky enough not to know, mumps is one of those childhood illnesses most of us dodge thanks to modern medicine and this little thing called a vaccine. But as we've come to learn repeatedly, the Griffins are not most families. So when Peter literally shoves Meg into the arms of some guy at a convention who looks like he hasn't seen daylight since the Carter administration, he thinks he's doing something nice. He's not, because plot twist, that dude isn't wearing a costume. His face is swollen because he has actual mumps. No makeup, no latex prosthetics, just pure untreated viral infection. Honestly, it's a miracle Meg didn't also contract nerd rot just from breathing near him. And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? She gets exposed, maybe gets a shot, everything's fine. Oh, if only. Turns out Peter never got Meg immunised in the first place. Yep, no vaccine, nothing. Not even a brochure, just vibes and blind optimism. And honestly, that's not just bad parenting, that's felony neglect with a comedic soundtrack. So now Meg is bedridden, puffy-faced and miserable. And what do her loving siblings do? Do they bring her soup? Do they keep her company? Absolutely not. Chris and Stewie do what any emotionally detached cartoon brothers would do. They roast the absolute hell out of her. Meanwhile, Lois is trying her best to be motherly, which in the Griffin household translates to mildly not abusive. She tells Meg that Peter is bringing in a TV just for her, which sounds sweet until the reality hits.
It's a little old and there's no remote and it only gets one channel and it's not on that channel right now.
Beautiful. Just what every sick teen girl needs. Grainy static and zero entertainment. And the cherry on top? Peter's wearing a full deep sea diving suit because he's scared of catching mumps himself. And guess what? He's not vaccinated either. Like father, like neglected daughter. You really can't make this stuff up. So Meg's stuck in bed, quarantined, emotionally abandoned, and forced to watch the only channel she gets, which happens to be airing a very intense Christian sermon. At first, she's just kind of there, miserable, zoned out, but then the preacher starts talking about loneliness, and not being loved, and feeling forgotten. And Meg leans in.
Meg, your mother made soup for you. Here you go, honey.
Yeah, I'd scream too. Because when your only companions are a religious infomercial and soup from the man who doomed your immune system, there are only two paths, breakdown or baptism. And Meg goes full baptism. Like, full, made well by the hand of God level of spiritual revival. She becomes so devout that even Lois starts getting freaked out. And that's saying something, because Lois once watched her husband date a plastic surgery experiment and didn't blink twice. But it gets worse. Meg tries to convert Brian. Yes, Brian, the chain-smoking, martini-sipping, atheist dog. She hits him with full, "Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Saviour?" energy. And Brian looks like he's considering exiting the series entirely just to avoid the conversation. And you know what the real moral of the story is? Always vaccinate your kids. because if you don't, they won't just get sick, they might catch evangelism and come out of it quoting scripture and trying to exorcise your dog. But that's not even the worst part of Meg's story. No, that honour goes to the episode where she actually goes to prison and comes back completely broken. This one's not just a bad week for Meg, this one's permanent damage. It's the closest Family Guy ever gets to asking, what happens when the punching bag punches back? It all kicks off, weirdly enough, with a rodeo. Peter signs up after seeing it listed in the TV guide. Sorry, the guide, because apparently that's canon now. He trains by branding Meg, riding Chris like a horse, and basically treating his kids like cattle. Pretty standard Griffin parenting, really. Eventually, he enters the ring, gets thrown off a bull immediately, and what happens off-screen is heavily implied to be traumatic. But that's not the plot we're talking about here. While Peter is busy traumatizing livestock and himself, Brian stumbles into a writing gig for teen people. His assignment is to follow around a typical teenage girl and write an article.
Oh, I love teenage girls. It's all ahead of them, you know? They haven't turned into bitches yet.
Naturally, he picks Meg. Not because she's typical, but because, let's face it, he assumes she's boring enough that the assignment will write itself. Except she's not. Brian follows her, climbs a ladder to peek into her room, and finds that Meg has a secret life. She's been visiting a prison inmate named Luke, someone she started writing to in a pen pal project. What started as schoolwork turned into something real. He's behind bars, and she feels like she's trapped in her own house. It tracks. Now, Meg has a lot of bad boy flings. This one just comes with a jumpsuit and a criminal record. Luke, for what it's worth, seems genuinely into her. They exchange letters, hair, hopes, and Meg is convinced this is love.
Oh, I don't expect you to wait for me, Meg.
No, I will, Luke. If it takes 10 years or 20 years, I will be here when you get out.
Brian tells the family, and of course, no one takes Meg seriously. Lois forbids her from seeing Luke again. Peter mostly responds by digging through the guide to confirm it's really happening, and Meg, once again, gets shut down. But then Luke escapes. There's a riot. He slips through the fence, and the first place he runs? Meg's bedroom window. She doesn't hesitate. She hides him. She's all in. She's loyal to a fault.
Luke! What are you doing here?
I escaped, Meg. I escaped because I just couldn't bear another second away from you.
Brian catches them. Peter walks in, it all unravels. Peter has no clue what's happening until he reads that week's plot summary in the guide, and then, in the most Peter Griffin move imaginable, he calls the cops and casually congratulates Bonnie on their new living room layout, while also reporting a fugitive. Luke gets tackled, Meg gets arrested too for harbouring him, and just like that, Meg Griffin is sent to prison. Now, cut to 3 months later, she's back.
I'm home. You're all my bitch now.
Okay.
But she's not Meg, not really. This version of her walks through the door with a dead stare and enough trauma to fill a miniseries. She doesn't flinch, she doesn't smile. She looks around and says, calmly,
First question. Who's the biggest, toughest guy in this house?
Within minutes, she takes down Peter in hand-to-hand combat, forces Stewie to punch himself, used Lois's shirts as toilet paper. She even has a poop bucket next to her bed that she refuses to empty until it's full. It's the same story at school. Meg doesn't just stand up for herself. She goes by prison rules. She beats the crap out of Connie D'Amico and her crew with a sack of soda cans, and then makes out with Connie just to assert dominance. But the Griffin family doesn't know what to do with that. For the first time, they're afraid of her. Even Peter's baffled. He liked her better when she was predictable. This version's a variable he can't control. Then comes the turning point. Meg ambushes Brian in his car, pulls a gun on him, and makes him drive to Mort's pharmacy. She wants money, fast, so she can leave Quahog for good. Maybe go to China. It's kind of sad because for once, Meg's not chasing popularity or trying to get noticed. She's just done. At the pharmacy, she holds Mort at gunpoint. Brian begs her to stop. She doesn't listen. So he shows her something. The Teen People article. It's not what she expected. Brian didn't write about her awkwardness or her acne or her misery. He wrote about her strength, her ability to survive, her quiet hopefulness.
In this sense, Meg Griffin is not the typical American girl. She is far sweeter and kinder than that.
For the first time in the entire episode, maybe the series, Meg hears someone talk about her like she's a real person. Not a joke, not a punchline, and not a burden. She puts the gun down, she thanks Brian, and she goes home. The ending is quieter than you'd expect. Meg doesn't deliver a big speech, she doesn't change clothes or get a hug from Lois, she just makes a joke about Wesley Snipes. Peter mutters, always end on a strong joke, and that's it. But Family Guy isn't content to let her off easy. Sometimes they throw her into chaos that's way beyond typical teenage drama. It starts relatively normal. Meg's friend Ruth invites her to study abroad for a semester in Paris. At first, Meg hesitates, but she wins over her parents by proudly announcing she saved up for it herself through part-time jobs. Bless her little hard-working heart. Meg and Ruth arrive, giddy and wide-eyed. navigating cobblestone streets, dodging fake cab drivers, getting soaked in the cliche of it all. Classic coming of age meets European charm. But then things go sideways fast. The girls share a cab with a stranger who seems nice enough until he phones his cohorts. And just like that, Ruth is snatched from her room. Meg tries to hide but is quickly caught and trapped. Her father, Peter, briefly speaks to the kidnappers before they cut him off. And the FBI soon informs Lois that Meg has only 96 hours before she might disappear forever. They, unfortunately, cannot act immediately. However, Brian overhears this and proposes to Stewie that they take matters into their own hands.
You and I have to take matters into our own hands.
Stewie reveals he has a recording of the conversation between Peter and the kidnappers, which leads them to Ruth's aunt's house in Paris.
Phone call with the fat man. You see, Brian, I record all phone calls coming in or out of the house.
You do?
Yep.
Using Google Earth, they track Meg's location and find a satellite image of her with the stranger. After returning to the airport, they spot the man and confront him. He runs, but a bus hits him, and Brian and Stewie discover an address in his wallet. Disguising themselves as salesmen, they use voice recognition software to match the kidnapper's voice to their suspect. After taking down his accomplices, they manage to force him to reveal the location of the girls. They rush to the building and find rooms full of girls held captive. One girl wearing Meg's hat tells them that Meg was taken to a sex slave auction. The duo infiltrates the auction, with Stewie disguised as one of the victims. However, things go awry when Stewie is caught and placed in the auction as well. To keep up the ruse, Stewie forces Brian to buy him.
Bring the lights up a bit, play the CD I gave you, and let's do this!
But their cover is blown and they're captured. Just as they're about to be taken away, they spot Meg at the auction. In a daring escape, Brian breaks free from his chains, knocking out the captors with pipes, while Stewie finishes off the rest. After rescuing Meg from the auction, they chase down the kidnappers, who rush her onto a yacht. A thrilling car chase ensues, with Brian and Stewie managing to board the yacht. Stewie arms Brian with a silencer-equipped gun, and they take out several of the criminals on board. However, as they near Meg, she's delivered to a rich, fat Arab man who has bought her as a bride for his son. He offers her the choice to go home if she marries his son, but Meg, desperate for normalcy, agrees to the proposal. Just as they begin to kiss, Stewie kills the suitor with a silent shot. To erase any memory of his involvement, Stewie blanks Meg's mind of the events, leaving her with only the memory of her suitor's death. That surreal Paris nightmare might be one of Meg's darkest detours yet, but her battles back home are no less brutal, just a lot more grounded, as this next episode will prove. At school, Meg hears the whispers that Mike Pulaski is the new threat on campus. He's scary, mean, and has a rep that could make even the toughest kid quake. When she sees him brutalizing poor Neil Goldman, her worst fears solidify. Then comes the disaster. Meg accidentally spills her lunch tray on Mike at school, and suddenly, she's got a fight scheduled for Friday.
What's your name, dude?
Meg Griffin!
3 o'clock, Friday. I will destroy you.
Chris, you have my back, right?
I don't know. Let me check. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna need it for the fight.
Meg is desperate to avoid this confrontation. She tries everything she can think of. She considers transferring to a new school, but her parents shoot her down. She even attempts to get expelled by leaking a scandalous sex tape, but nothing works. When she hires a group of jocks to defend her, Mike easily beats them up, and her so-called friends abandon her too, choosing to avoid the fallout rather than stand by her. It's then that Quagmire, of all people, shows up in the woman's restroom and offers his unexpected assistance.
Mr. Quagmire? What are you doing in here?
This is my base of operations.
Mr. Quagmire, the girls' gym class will be in the showers in 20 minutes.
Thank you, Shirley.
He reveals that his drive to help her stems from his own experience with bullying as a child. Quagmire helps Meg channel her anger, encouraging her to focus her rage not just on Mike, but also on Peter, using her own body as a weapon against Mike. It's a bizarre and unsettling form of training, but Meg is desperate. When the fight finally arrives, Mike brutally beats Meg, almost knocking her out. Meg refuses to give in. In a last-ditch attempt, she pops a massive zit in his face, and then, in a shocking move, kisses him, further grossing him out. Just when it seems like Mike might finish her off, Meg pulls out her ultimate weapon, flashing him her breasts. Mike, utterly melted by the sight, backs down, and Meg walks away victorious, albeit in the most twisted, uncomfortable way possible. As she leaves with Quagmire, he cryptically warns her that she's likely to die from septic shock caused by hot dogs the following year. Meg may have walked away victorious from the brutal high school brawl, but the real fight is far messier and more painful, and it's happening right under her roof. The Griffins are trapped at home during a hurricane with no TV to distract them. Naturally, things spiral into boredom, and Meg becomes the family's punching bag. While Peter is off humming the theme song from Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, Meg innocently opens a can of soda, causing the noise to irritate Peter. When he snaps at her, Meg finally stands up for herself, unleashing a barrage of insults aimed at her family.
Oh, that was annoying? What about your stupid, obnoxious humming?
Meg, don't talk to your father like that.
Yeah, shut up, Meg!
No! You shut up, Chris! I am sick of all you guys ganging up on me. You guys all think you're so much better than me.
Meg doesn't stop there, though. When Peter tries to brush it off with humour, she points out that his shortcomings might be worse than all of theirs. In the midst of all this dysfunction, Meg has a moment of clarity. She sees how the family is unravelling, and a quick realisation settles in. Maybe her role in the family is to absorb their frustrations and act as the lightning rod for their anger. In a heartbreaking moment of self-sacrifice, Meg apologises for everything, allowing the family to blame her for the fight, thus restoring a fragile sense of peace. That's it for this video. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you next time, or else I might just send Quagmire after you.